What's up, guys? Johnny Tacos here with another exciting and informative episode of the Johnny Tacos Show. Yes, for all those who just stumbled upon here saying, hey, this is a Food Network special, get to learn to make some exquisite Tejano tacos here on the Johnny Tacos Show. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you know what? I also know the good news. I know the gospel. And you know what? You do get edification spiritually through Jesus Christ from the testimonies of my guest and my constant babbling. You know what? It is a good day to be alive. It's October if you're into the spooky time, or if you like the coolness, which I love the cold. I keep joking around with my wife saying I was born in the wrong state. But you know what? Texas is to me is the best state. It's got all four seasons pretty much at the same time if you really think about it. Go to the panhandle, it's frozen. You go down to Laredo, you're cooking eggs on the concrete, and in the middle you got your fall. San Antonio gets pretty cold. I love going to San Antonio. Um, Man, I went ADD. I'm just really psyched about having this interview with my guest today. We've been talking like an hour before we even hit record, and I was like, man, this is like I've known this guy for forever, and we're just sitting here just talking shop as what the professionals say. We're all professional. You read got the chance to hear some episodes of the Johnny Taco Show. I'm all about professionalism. We're down to the wire. Every little thing counts. There's a script somewhere. I did have a script, but like I tell everybody, I tore it away, threw it away. I felt bad about it because I actually, Chat GPT really did a really great job on the script. I looked at it and I said, I am not letting you do this, Skynet. And I burned it. So there is no script. We will not be taken down by Terminators. I do not want Arnold Schwarzenegger stealing my leather jacket in the bar, which is, it's pretty scary thought about it. It's one of my childhood trauma fears. That I still have nightmares about Arnold Schwarzenegger still in my leather jacket, even though I don't have a leather jacket, which I need to get a leather jacket. There goes the ADD is coming through strong today. I do not need coffee to get the jitters, but if you do want coffee, get Black Rifle coffee. I can't drink it. My guest is drinking it, enjoying it, sipping on it, just like rubbing my nose, and it's like, hey, this coffee is so good. It makes me feel like I'm a leatherneck about to go and serve my country while drinking fine American bean coffee.
Yes, sir.
I sound like a really good I sound like a really good vet. Um, I've seen some stuff. You know, I learned, that my dad survived two Chinook crashes during the Vietnam War, and that was the most combat that he had. The rest of the time, he said he was just sitting around drinking beer and all that. And it's like, wow, Hamburger Hill lied to me. Platoon lied to me. But no, I'm getting off topic because this is a Christian podcast about good old fashioned hardcore heavy metal that you and me and millions of other the Street Taco team has loved for years. I am honored to meet this gentleman here. Like I said, we talked earlier about music. He's very, very versed in his Christianity as well as music. Um, he has a band called Blood of Lions. I almost did a William Shatner. He has a band called Blood with Lions, uh, which to me is awesome because it just brings you back to the roots of what hardcore, what metal is to you, and what it, and we'll talk more about how the band came up, and more about how faith in God has really excelled this band to a higher platform. Um, and we also have a little tidbit. I'm gonna call it a mini taco of the new single. The New Devils. You know, because that's all we need is new devils. We got these old devils that are attacking us, and they have no power against us because we have the armor of God. You got these new devils, and they're no match for either. Just remember, God said we will prevail. The devil will be at our boots. Being, and we will just rejoice in His name. Okay, all right. I am going ADD. Like I said, this is not a scripted show. This is one of these shows where anything can happen. The filter is off, but just to let the mom pops know, there will be no adult language. There will be no censoring of the any kind of things that will sway away from all the children here, because this is a family show,
Yes, sir.
and Johnny approves. This is approved by Johnny of Blood of Lions. All right. Without any more hesitation, without any more updates besides this, November 8th, Disciple will be here
Let's
in North
go.
Richland Hills. So I will be there. I will do MC like I did the last 3 years. And it's going to be awesome. Tickets are on sale. There's VIP. If you want to purchase the new Johnny Taco shirt, I'll have a area there. My beautiful wife, she's taking guys. We'll be there selling my T-shirts. If you like the whole Ed Hardy kind of tattoo kind of thing, that's what I was kind of feeling for. So grab you a shirt. It helps out the podcast. I don't make $1 million on here. If I'd made $1 million, I would have more Transformer collection behind me, but I don't. But here we are. Hey, Mr. Lee, if that's your real name. How are you doing today over there in Colorado?
Fantastic, my man. I'm a little disappointed this isn't a cooking show. I was really getting hungry for some tacos when I saw, the title of the show. But we're gonna feed people in other ways, right? Give them
Yes.
some new music and some good background and stories and a little bit of testimony here, man. So yeah, I'm stoked to be here. Extremely excited to get into a conversation with you and just raw, unadulterated, unfiltered truth about where Blood Alliance came from and why we're doing what we're doing.
Awesome. And you know what? I am so happy that you're on the show. I'm just really psyched about because we know so many people in this community. It's kind of like the Kevin Bacon. Miggy is the Kevin Bacon of the Christian metal scene. So, and we'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about the new song coming up, which he guest appearance in there, which I heard it before anybody. So, I'm really excited about other people hearing it too. Wow, did I sound like I'm like in slow jazz right now? Hello, yes.
You did. You got a little slow jazzy on me.
Ah, man, it is. It, I yeah, that's what happens when you don't have coffee.
Hey, high quality H2O, right? The water boy.
Yep.
So, man,
Water sucks. It
and you
really
are right.
does.
Mickey is like so connected. in the Christian metal world, and even with some of the connections I have to other people that we were talking about earlier, like Miggy's connected with them as well, and it's just he's such a spectacular human being that I think when he meets somebody, like you're just drawn to him and you don't want to lose that friendship or that connection. Which is, I feel honored that he guest appeared and features on this song because, again, our relationship just blossomed the first time we ever met. And he was like a brother to me instantly. And, I got the honor and privilege of staying with him when we were recording the last part of this album. And after a pretty deep conversation about faith and the topic about new devils, which new levels, new devils, as you're entering into new levels of your life, getting closer to God's true calling for your life, like the devil's going to attack harder and more fiercely, and we were both experiencing that at the time. So just again, raw connection brought us together on a song that I think when the listeners hear it, they're going to understand the message, they're going to feel the message, and they're going to be able to power through their own fight in life.
Amen to that. And if y'all have the time, you can go back and see the interview with Relent and hear Mickey's testimony. It's a really powerful testimony of uh, how everything came to fruition, and his struggles with alcoholism, and what happened on that beach, on that shore right there. It really it's it's an eye opener. It just shows the power of God, and when God opens the doors, there's no way to close them.
Yeah, man, he's one of those guys that, I think the devil really wanted to get a hold of early on in life. I mean, I've experienced some of that same stuff, some of the struggles in life and the darkness. But when God gets a hold of those guys, guys like Miggy, they're just some of the most extreme and powerful warriors for Christ ever. And that's why I started making music again. I wanted to write spiritual warfare music so that we can find more of those warriors and pull them to the right side, to the light, especially with some of the stuff going on in the world right now. I think it's a perfect time for this song to release, and it wasn't planned that way. God had his own timing. This was supposed to be released 5 months ago, actually. Um, but the timing of things kind of pushed me back and put it on pause for a while. But then you go through some of the things like the Charlie Kirk assassination, and you see some of the hate and evil come out after that stuff and in the world. And I mean, we're seeing the devil in a new way rise up in our community, in our country. And I think it's perfect time for this song to release to give people the power and the anthem that they need.
Yeah, and it's heartbreaking when you see like the evilness come out and people celebrating an assassination of a husband, a father, a son, a Christian man, a hardworking Christian man that went out there and wasn't afraid to speak and you know, open up ways to talk it out.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
even if you didn't agree with them, right? Like it's you don't have to agree with what he was saying, but man, for anybody to be killed over conversation and opening the door to conversation for two different sides of the spectrum, it's sad. Like you said, a father, a husband, a son, a Christian. I mean, this is spiritual warfare in our faces right now, if you ask me. And I think that's, again, it's just like it really inspired me to just not stay quiet about my faith as much as I have. And it's not something I'm scared of. I talk to people openly about it, but entering into this project and re-establishing myself as a career musician, I was saying, I'm going to write music for God and make sure that God's in the center of this music this time around. But like, I don't want to be labeled as a Christian band because I don't want to lose half of the country and labeling myself that way, or half of the listeners. And the reality is, like, that's who I am. It's who I've been my whole life. I became a believer and a follower and was baptized at a very young age. I've had my struggles, my fallouts with God. I've cursed him, cursed at him. I've had some very volatile conversations in prayer with him. But at the center of life has always been God and his resurrection of me in a different way. There's a song on our album called Buried Alive, and it is literally about that. Like, I've had to bury myself over and over and over again to see the new version of myself because God said, this version isn't serving you anymore. I gave you these tools and I gave you these defense mechanisms at a young age to protect yourself and keep yourself alive, especially against the schemes of the enemy. But now it's time to level up and it's time to bury that version of you and become another version of you. So let's let that one rise up. So yeah, I mean, yeah, here we are.
Yeah, which was the whole point of baptism, is to let the old you die and you rise up new, uh, from Christ.
Yeah.
Which you said you're at, I had my baptism 6 years ago, before the COVID outbreak. And I can still remember it as it was yesterday. It was a huge emotional time. Um, I wasn't expecting it. I thought, well, he's going to duck me in like I'm an Oreo cookie and put me out, and that's it. No, it was overwhelming because I felt the old me die, and I felt a mourning for my old me. But then I realized that the new me is greater because I am greater with him in me. Uh, the just like I know that we I feel like we have the same kind of testimony in a way, which we can dive into it. Uh, your life, have you said you got baptized at an early age, and then you had a time where your faith was tested, right? You had
Yes.
issues that came up. Um, can you elaborate on one instance or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I was baptized at 14. I was kind of raised in the church. My dad was a youth leader at church, and so me and my sister were always around the church. But my personal choice was made at 14. We had moved from this place called Lake Elsinore in California to back to Redondo Beach, and I was had to start high school completely over. I was picked on. I had pretty much no friends, and youth group saved my life. I ran into a kid that we had known when we were just like 4 or 5 years old and had gone to church with, and ran into him at high school. And somehow he recognized me after 10 years of being apart and, said, hey, why don't you come to youth group? And it genuinely saved my life because at the time I didn't know if I wanted to keep going on with the turmoil I was experiencing with being picked on and teased and bullied at school. Um, so I decided, after about a year of being involved in that youth group to get baptized, and it was beautiful. Same experience you had. It was just like, whoa, there's this like new power and light inside of me that I didn't know existed. Now it's always been there because Christ says, his spirit is inside of us. But the devil likes to keep that really dim. He likes to keep it really dim in life. And with some of the stuff we went through in our family as a kid, some volatile experiences, uh, some abuses that I've gone through. I just told my dad on Monday for the first time in my life about, and not even in detail, a sexual abuse that I went through some of my family members. And, he was just kind of drawn back. He didn't realize that had happened. And then some of the other just like energy that was around our house. I decided, when I experienced that love and that connection and that surrounding in youth group, that like that was the love of Christ pulling me out of that darkness. And so I was super grateful for that. And at the end of the day, I gave my life to Christ and was baptized in the ocean, and it was phenomenal. And then I decided to really devote my life to Christ and start going to Vanguard University, which was a private Christian college in Southern California. And so I went there, and I had never experienced people partying so hard in my life. it made me question everything. I mean, we're talking about people that are going to school to be pastors, worship leaders, ministers, all this stuff, missionaries, and they're running around naked in the girls' dorms and doing, cocaine and drinking and all this stuff. And you're like, what is actually happening here? This is not what I signed up for. So it kind of made me question some things. And my friend, who was the drummer of my band, invited me to a party in the middle of my freshman and sophomore year, like over summer. And I went and I dove into the devil's playground. I mean, first time I ever went to a party was the first time I drank, I smoked, and I put cocaine up my nose. And it was all in one night. And it just was like, all right, the playing field is open. The devil had his way for a few years. And I started really questioning, like, is God real? Like, has everything that I've believed in just been a facade? And I started, researching other religions, and religious studies was always something I dove into through high school because I wanted to understand the differences between religions. But this time I was like, is there something else out there, or is it really that we just turn into worm food at the end of the world?
So
I
you were shopping for more answers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where, it it really solidified that God is real and Jesus Christ was a real man who died on a cross and lived this life as the Son of God in the flesh on earth. And really, you know, he did this. He gave his life for that message to live on. And it's been a pillar of my existence ever since then, and just strengthened it when I fell away. But, you know, I, even after that, I've had moments where when the enemy is attacking so hard and it seems like there is no hope left, and you're just at the last fray of the rope and you don't know where God's going to show up. I've had those moments where I'm like, are you even real? Are your promises even real? Are you ever going to show up? You say these things in the word, but I haven't experienced them. And then, God just kind of sits back and laughs, just like we do with our kids, right? When they're I have a 4-year-old daughter right now, two teenage boys and a 4-year-old daughter. And sometimes it's just the end of the world if she doesn't get her way or things aren't working out the way she wanted to. And as a parent, you just kind of sit back and laugh and go, oh my gosh, this is so trivial. Like when she's an adult, that stuff's not even going to matter. And I think God looks at us that way. Like, son, right now, I know you're feeling the big feels. I know that you're feeling like you're at the end of the rope, but this is nothing compared to what I am going to do in your life and how I'm going to show you I am real. And he shows up, man. He shows off, and it's just I'm a big believer in patterns speak louder than actions and words. And God has been a pattern in my life in those dark moments, showing up and just ripping me out of the darkness, out of the grasp of the enemy, of falling back away from him, or even as I talk about in one of my songs on the album, almost taking my life because it just got really dark. And I didn't know if it was worth living. I thought maybe turning in a life insurance policy to my family worth $1 million was a better deal than for me to struggle and try and find the next job that was going to pay me. And so, you get to these places, and God pulls you through. And I will tell you that was one of the most in my face, God is real, God is alive moments, is when I almost pulled that trigger that night. And he just told me, don't go to sleep forever, just go to sleep for tonight. And I heard that over and
Wow.
over, and I had to just do it.
Well, the pain of what the enemy when the enemy puts in that seed of doubt,
Mm,
first seed, that small seed, just a little hint of the doubt, and through experiences and all that waters that doubt, and then it gets that full blown. What am I doing here? Why am I worshiping God? Why am I putting my whole life in here? I have not seen anything. Us as humans, as flesh and blood, we have this we have this thing that it's self. Everything is about what is it going to do for me.
yeah.
You know, uh, I go and I go to work and I make the money. What is that money going to do for me? What is it going to do? You know, I have a hard time with the tithing thing because I'm like, well, I could use that $20 I tied to go towards something else. Um, it's just when the enemy does that, you just have to open up scripture. You have to read the Bible. You have to get stronger in your faith because us as humans, we rely on our flesh and what our flesh feels. That's where you get your temptations from, sexual, materialistic temptations of are the backbone to falling down that spiral. Uh, yeah, you when you were saying that you saw all this evilness in a supposed to be a Christian college. The colleges in the beginning were all rooted in Christian beliefs, but
Yeah.
once it gets added with the liberal life and the far left starts occupying chairs of the education council. You start getting deans that are more liberal than others. And I hate to get political, but if you look at it, people that go that way are not necessarily. There might be a couple of percentage that are Christians, but most of them aren't, and they are more the idols that they worship are themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can agree with you there. And, I wanted to touch on something you were mentioning earlier is like, whether people listening right now are believers or not, just as a reminder, what Johnny was saying about the devil planting a seed and watering it, like God works like that. God can cast a miracle upon your life just like that out of nowhere. And I've seen it time and time again in my life. But the devil will plant a seed and slowly and meticulously and so like just he's wise, he's cunning, he's charismatic, and he will plant that seed and he will water it, and then he'll turn it into a tsunami of water over time because one drop, then there's two, and then that just turns into an ocean of doubt. And I think, for anybody listening right now, like as a reminder, just any of those seeds that are not of God, that are not of love, that are not of a reminder of who you are in the greatest form, is not of God. And you have to remind yourself of that. Like, especially as a man, and no offense to the women out there, but especially as the man, the pressure that is put on us as providers and leaders, and being this exponential earner in the world and having to have this like social clout, man, does it cast doubt on you when you are not achieving those things in life, especially as a husband and a father. And it's just not the truth, and when you guys listen to this album, you're going to hear a lot of these themes in my music where I talk about this real life crap that we go through and those seeds of doubt that the devil puts in us, especially in New Devils. It's literally about getting out of the most dangerous 8 inches in the world, which is right here between your ears, and getting into the word, getting into what God says about us, and getting back into the heart. Now, God also says the heart above all things is deceitful. We have to guard ourselves from that too, like you said, because it becomes all about self and about me. When the reality is, connection is probably the most important part of faith because that's where God can work through. That's who God can work through, I should say. And how God works is through his church, his people, the body. And I've again experienced it time and time again from strangers. I mean, when we were going down to make the first song, 3 songs for this album, and really see if jumping back into music is what I wanted to do, my wife and I did not have the money to do this. We were broke. I had lost my company. I had just lost my oldest son to his mother, who was feeding him alcohol and drugs every time he visited to her. Even though we had full custody. We had gone through a child protective services case and courts, and we had won that again. But then my son said, no, I want to go with my mom. And we haven't heard from him since May. So I lost my company. I lost my son. We tried to sell our house and almost lost our house. And I was watching my daughter to save money instead of paying for daycare. So we were just literally bleeding money. And talk about the seeds of doubt as a provider, as a leader of your household when you're not working and you have no income. Those crept in big time. And my wife said, no, we're going. God wants you to do this. I know it with my whole spirit. And what a warrior for God she is. And thank God she did that, because I'm so proud and grateful to be using this gift again for God's greatness. But 2 weeks before, we were still like almost 3 grand short on paying for this album. It was $2,500. And I was having a conversation with one of my men's groups in the morning at breakfast, 2 hour conversation about all the things that had gone on that I just mentioned to you, my son, my business being lost, all this stuff. And then last 15 minutes, they go, hey, tell us about music. What's going on with you and music? We heard you're going to start writing music again. And I told him, I said, but we're $2,500 short. I don't know where this money's going to come from, because we definitely don't have it, but I'm sure that God's going to show up like he always does in an instant, and through a stranger in the most strangest of ways is going to provide this money. We got up from the table and we walked away after saying our goodbyes. And 2 tables down was the only other person in the restaurant, which was this older gentleman who it was like in his 70s. And he had just walked in the last 20 minutes of the conversation. And he stops me and goes, are you a singer-songwriter? Did I hear that right? Sorry, I wasn't trying to eavesdrop or anything, but I think I heard you say that. Well, I sing and I write songs, but I wouldn't call me a singer-songwriter. But he goes, oh, I love writing country songs and never found anybody I could write them with. I've always wanted to write a country album, leave my mark on music that way. I said, well, dude, I was raised on country. I'd love to do that with you, and help you out. And he said, that's not what this is about. He goes, did I hear that you're $2,500 short on paying for your album? And I said, yeah, you did. And he goes, I'll fund it. And I'm not even kidding you. Right then and there, God showed up. And these guys were going, whoa, dude, hair was standing on end. They couldn't believe it. Some of them started tearing up. And I will tell you, that man has been in my life ever since. And even the story of how he got to that restaurant that morning, we talked because I didn't want to take his money. I didn't feel right. I wanted to write a contract where I paid him back. And he said, no, I actually have been praying to God, where am I supposed to put my money? I don't have any family. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. Nobody else in my family needs anything. And I wanted to tithe my money into the music industry because he used to manage tours and he never got to leave his mark as a musician. So that's how he wanted to leave his legacy behind, is tithing to a ministry of music. And he said, I literally been praying about it. And just this morning, I was driving to the grocery store to go buy myself some groceries to make breakfast. And I heard God tell me over and over again, take yourself out to breakfast. Take yourself out to breakfast. So I decided to just turn into the first breakfast restaurant I saw. And it was this little restaurant. And I walked in, and here you were having this conversation about making music for God and needing $2,500. So that was why God told me to go out to breakfast, was so that I could find my music ministry to tithe to. It's just wild. And that is a true story. Witnesses there for the whole thing. My wife has met this man. He's come over. He's actually coming over tomorrow to watch the Bronco game with us. He has been in my life and is a firm believer and supporter of this project. And that's how God works, you guys. It's just wild. He shows up in the most crazy of ways.
He sounds like a really good dude besides the Broncos, but I can't hold y'all against that. So
Hey, trust me, my dad grew up rooting for the Cowboys in the glory days, so I was watching the Cowboys like crazy growing up. But I always rooted for John Elway and Dan Marino because I love them as quarterbacks. So, and they were in the league a little bit before Aikman, so I kind of had my loyalties set before Aikman became a thing. But hey, if I'm in town with Miggy, I'm rooting for the Cowboys because I don't want to get kicked out if I'm staying at his house.
yeah, he's a diehard Cowboy fan. You know, every if you go to San Antonio wearing something other than the Cowboys, man, you're in for a rude awakening.
Yep. And now if you guys could just get Jerry Jones out of the way, you guys might actually win a Super Bowl again.
Hey, he said he's not giving up the Cowboys. He's giving it to his son after he gets to a point where he can't do anything. So
I know.
we'll just see. But the Dallas Stars are still doing good.
Dude, great team. Great
Yeah.
team. So
A lot better than the
We could
Avalanche.
probably talk sports forever too.
A lot better than the Avalanches. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a great team built, but man, we just keep falling short. I'll tell you that.
Well, Dallas, to get off topic just for a second, Dallas Stars, they start off strong, but they lose their momentum towards the end. And that's what's getting them is that they push 150% in the beginning, and then it whimpers down to 50% at the end
Yeah.
of the quarter.
Well, here's a wild connection to Texas for you. And I told you when we were talking before the show, I'm a Texas boy at heart, and I have been my whole life. People don't believe it because I grew up in Southern California. First 20 years were spent there. Next 23 were spent in Colorado. But I was a diehard baseball player, was extremely talented, was throwing heat like no other when I was in middle school, and was written in the papers about being the next Nolan Ryan. And I was a diehard Nolan Ryan fan. And when I was 11 years old, my dad said, well, he told me this all my whole life. If I ever buy a Harley, I'm putting you on the back of it, and we're going to meet Nolan Ryan in Alvin, Texas. And I came home for my 11th birthday, and there was a Harley Davidson in the garage. And a week later, he put me on the back of that Harley. We drove to Alvin, Texas, on to Nolan Ryan's ranch, and met Nolan Ryan. And here's how God works again. We only figured out where his ranch was because when we pulled into the hotel in Alvin, we were signing in, and the lady goes, "Wow, you guys are a long way from home with the California plates. What are you doing here?" And my dad said, "Well, my son's a huge Nolan Ryan fan. He actually just had an article written in the paper about him being the next Nolan Ryan. So we're trying to see if we can find Nolan Ryan's house and just knock on his door and see if I can get my son to meet Nolan Ryan." She goes, "Well, that's kind of ironic. I was the nanny for his kids growing up. I know exactly where he lives." She gave us the address. We knocked on the door. Ruth Ryan answered the door. She said, "I think I have a baseball or a picture signed. He's not here right now. He's at a meeting for his bank." And she walked away, and 5 minutes later, Nolan Ryan opened the door. It was incredible. So I then and there told my dad after that instance, and we got to go see him pitch that night. It was like weeks after he had beaten up Robin Ventura, got him in the headlock, and it was his last season. And so I got to see him pitch for the first time, like probably a month before he injured himself and had to retire. But man, that guy was an incredible human being. He would pitch his half inning, put his mitt down, and come and talk to me at the game because we had seats right next to the dugout. It was one of the most beautiful Texas experiences. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to be a Texan someday. I'm moving to Texas.
Hey,
So,
we got plenty of room, so come on down. You need to get away from that, you know, the that left leaning area over there.
yeah, it's been a little crazy up here. I'm not going to lie. And we did actually try to move last year to Texas. And God works in mysterious ways, man. Felt the God pull. We tried to get down to Montgomery and move down there next to Lake Conroe. And me and my son mobilized. We had our house on the market for 5 months. I think had mentioned it earlier. We were trying to sell our house and we're just bleeding money. And we said, we're going to step out in faith. Me and my son mobilized down there because I had work lined up. He had a football program he was going to be entering into with the Willis Wildcats, who had just won the state championship the last year. And we showed up on a Saturday, stocked up our fridge and freezer at our friend's house that we were staying at for a month's worth of food on Sunday. And Monday morning, a hurricane hit and wiped us out.
Wow.
Like all electricity. I had no work for 2 to 3 weeks. His football program wasn't going. And we had to turn back around and come right back up here. But to be completely honest, if I wouldn't have been back up here, I wouldn't have been able to gather the members that I have of this band and really, solidify that and, build a powerhouse team of warriors for God that are going to push this project forward. So God works in mysterious ways. Even in the midst of destruction, he's working.
You want to let the viewers know the powerhouse of who's who? Give
Yeah.
them a little
So
shout out.
So we right now we're just a three piece right now. So I think we're going to keep it that way. But Roger Foster is my guitar player, co-writer, and backup singer. He's a phenomenal human being. Great guy. He's had his own success with a project called Down the Rabbit Hole, an independent project of his that had some interest from Sumerian and Universal Records, and he just doesn't want to be in the spotlight as the front man anymore, and he believes in this project and the message and the mission of it. And then I had a conversation with Dan Johnson from Red and Love and Death, and within 5 minutes he said, "Hey, you just said you want to make a difference. you want God at the center of it, and you want God-fearing men in it, and the music is powerful, I'm in. And I was like, wait a second, I had so much more that I was going to pitch to you to get you in. And he's like, no, that's all I needed. I'm in. So we've got a powerhouse team in the three of us, and go figure, the Trinity three. It just kind of seems right. So that's where we're at right now, and we'll be hopefully hitting the road next year, getting some live touring going on, and really bringing this thing to stages across the country.
Awesome, awesome. And do you have any other people guesting on your album? I know you have Miggy, which
Yeah,
we're gonna get a little snidbit of that.
yeah. So and I don't know how much I should release about this, but we do have another powerhouse that we are going to be collabing with. Um, a huge, strong believer, and is a part of one of my favorite bands ever. And just really, we're putting together a song here in the next couple months that'll be round out the album. It'll be the 10th song on this album. So I'm not going to share too much. I'm going to keep a little bit of mystery there. But yeah, you can't see it, but their album's right over here, just out of view. And well, maybe I can give it to you guys right up there. So if anybody can see that album on the top shelf there and then figure out who it is, that's the band that we're going to be collabing with on our last song.
Not
And
Sleep Theory, even though they are an awesome band. As that's if you're looking at it, it's not your right, it's his right, which is he
yes,
left.
yep. So
And,
yeah, I mean, it's
and
uh, it's
not
exciting,
Nevermore
man.
either.
No, yeah, not Nothing More, not Sleep Theory, not Andy Grammer. It's that little album right. Well, sorry. Yeet, right up here on the top shelf. So if you've, it's their newest album that they came out with 2 years ago. So if you guys can look that album cover up and figure it out, kudos to you. But they're a pretty popular band. They just were touring with Creed, and yeah, we're just excited, man. I don't, again, this is all God. God has aligned this stuff without me even trying. He brought Dan into my life through a third party, and Roger came into my life when we were just going to a studio to put down a demo for a new song on the new album. And he just happened to be there because he knew the guy that was helping us do some of the pre-pro on it. And I walked in and I knew right away that God was calling us together, and so did he. And so it's been a wild ride so far. We're just getting started. I mean, releasing our third single on October 15th and New Devils, and the music video will come out October 29th. That'll be our first full-length music video, and and Miggy features in that too. And that's a wild story about that whole music video too, man. I mean, we were under attack while making that. I mean, going both Miggy and I were having struggles in our personal lives with finances, and both were kind of worried about losing our home at the time. And the bills in that music video are our actual stacked up bills. Me and my wife stacked up bills that we could not pay. And it's in this music video. It's the story of, a female who is struggling to make it and to get by, and she wonders if it's even worth living anymore, and starts turning to addiction and making choices to use substances to numb, and really thinks about taking her life through a bottle and some pills, and decides at the last minute, once God gets a hold of her, that that's not it. Like, she wants to be renewed, and she wants to see it a different way, and she wants to live and keep fighting, and ends up, I don't want to give the whole thing away, but ends up just changing her life, by just letting God take her to where he wanted her to go. And it's kind of the story of my life and Miggy's life, and our producer of the music video and producer of my album's life. Like, we were all in struggle during that time, and all did not know how we were going to get through. And yet, after we made that music video and we powerhouse through it, all of us have seen some light at the other side of it. So it's a cool video in the way that it portrays a lot of who was making its struggles. And I think everybody goes through it. Like, there's a lot of people struggling in the world right now to get by, to make ends meet, to pay their bills, but it's never worth taking yourself out. The only decision that is irreversible in life is taking your own life, or ending your life. And as somebody who's struggled with a moment of almost taking my life and suicidal ideation at times, it's just not worth it, man. God has so much more for us. Even though he says we're going to struggle on this earth, it is so worth continuing on and to keep fighting because you will see God's glory in your life again.
Amen to that. Hey, we're getting close to the end. Hey, Johnny, it is an honor to meet you. Can't wait to hopefully get to see you perform down here in Dallas area. Uh, your your testimony, man, it, it's just showing how powerful God is, and that if He can do that to you, He can do that to anybody. He can make things happen for anybody. Uh, give your heart to Jesus. Jesus died on that cross, which was a very heartbreaking thought because he did that for my sins. I don't deserve it. I didn't deserve him being on that cross.
No,
Uh, I
no,
don't think I don't think anybody in their right minds would look at what he did and say, "Ah, you deserved it." Um, it's it's just a moving place of thought and the redeemed feeling to it. We go through these seasons um, of doubt because we are humans. We go through these times where we're asking God, we're yelling at God, we're arguing with God because we live in our flesh. That eight, like you said, the 8 inches of war in the wartime. We live with that on a daily, and the one thing that makes a difference between a Christian and someone who is living of the world is that the Christian relies on the word, and the word protects. The word equips you with a way to deal with this life that you have. Being a Christian doesn't mean that you get a nice shiny card that says, "Hey, I'm a Christian. You can't touch me. I'm a Christian. Everything's going to go right with me." Um, no, it's actually the hardest thing you can be as a Christian nowadays in this life. The disciples, the apostles, they all suffered because of their beliefs and because of what they felt about Jesus Christ, about God, and they suffered to the day, and they did not denounce Jesus to that
yep,
point. We're going to go through times where we're going to be the enemy to a lot of people, and not doing it on purpose, and not showing, not being malicious,
yeah,
not showing ill intent. We're just going to be an enemy because of what we believe. And we're going to live through some of the stuff that Jesus went through in his 30 plus years, 33 years, wasn't it? 33.
yeah. 33.
Yeah, 33 years of coming to earth to live as we do, to feel as we do, to be tempted, to um, be ridiculed, to be harmed. All that of what we lived through in our life, he did in 33 years just to ha have that relationship with you. And when he died on that cross, he ripped that veil. He made it through believing that he is the one true king. He is God, is the only way to seek the kingdom. And to me, that right there is really easy. That's the easiest way to get in. If you read the Old Testament on how uh, nobody, hardly anybody, was allowed to go to the kingdom.
Yeah, and it is like you said, it's the easiest decision, but it's one of the hardest things to do. He didn't promise us that it was going to be butterflies and rainbows. In fact, he said, follow me and you will be persecuted. Um, and it people think it's, I've talked to many atheists and have pretty in-depth conversations with them, and um, not even meaning to have kind of opened their minds to faith, because I think it takes a lot more um, strength to be a believer, because there is no, like, faith has no real um, guarantee to it. We are literally believing that at the end of this life, what we believe is the truth. And yes, there's the truth. There's the word of God. There is more archaeological findings that are proving and providing that this word is the truth than not. But it's hard. I mean, when you choose to take up your cross and follow Christ and believe in God, like, you're going to have people absolutely persecute you and attack you and hate you, and just for a choice you made. And I don't know one time that since I've become a Christian that I haven't had struggles. And again, God didn't say it was going to be easy. He mentioned to us that we will experience hell on earth, for lack of a better term. And but He is always there, and He is always going to turn that hell into good, and turn evil into good for us. And He has the victory at the end of the day. He's got it planned for us, and just hang on if you're going through a struggle. I mean, and if you're going through a struggle and you need somebody to reach out to, man, I'm an open book. Reach out to the Blood Alliance page, reach out to my personal page, and let's talk, man. I'm all ears. I'm here to be there for people, and that's what I want to do with music. I want them to hear these stories of my life and those struggles, and how God was there and ripped me out of that grasp, and persevered and had the victory for me too.
Amen. Amen. Hey, thank you, Johnny, for being on the show. Want to thank all the new listeners that listened to it all the way up because they wanted to hear a little tidbit of the song, New Devils. So I am going to let you listen to it, but only a little bit, because you know what? If I gave it to you all, then you wouldn't want to listen to it when it premieres. So do me a favor, um, hit the like, subscribe if you want more of the Johnny Taco Show. Also, if you go on my Apple playlist, the Johnny Taco Spotlight, I will have songs from my guests on there so you can jam to them without having to go through Apple and type in all their names. Just go onto that playlist and bada bing, bada boom, you got it there. You don't need to any other playlist to play. Do that when you listen for workouts on your way home from work, having a rough day from work, or just having a bad day. Just listen to some tunes, get closer to the Lord, and just know that after this life, you have your eternal life in the kingdom. The keys are yours. You just got to grab them. All right. Here we are, New Devils from Blood of Lions. And I am. Oh, before we go, because I know you wanna know this. I love you. You are my brother. You are my sister in Christ. And I don't want you to have a good day. You know what, Johnny? I don't want you to have a good day. I want you to have a great day. We're out of here. Here it is.
I can take the sound, trap with the echoes as they pull me down. God, won't you save me cause I'm full of town. Please make it quick, time is running out. New levels, new devils. Every time I hear I need to walk away. Another chance for me to fight with faith. New levels, new devils. Holding on to promises of better days. Stuck in my head, I need to turn the page.
If you like this episode and you want to hear more, please like and subscribe to get the latest and the greatest from the Johnny Taco Show.